Hi, everyone. This is my data collection and analysis presentation. My name is Dawn. In this presentation, we'll cover my research question, why I chose it, the data I'm collecting, and what works and didn't work. I did separate these out. I have 3 different intervention programs. I did do it overall 3 because they do include different groups of students. My research question is how implementing evidence-based research in classroom management strategies impact behaviors that disrupt lessons in an inclusive kindergarten setting. My focus is on my intervention groups. I chose this research question based on my host teacher's first observation during my pre-practicum. I have made this my pre-practicum goal. My classroom management and behaviors were the only areas in which I was not proficient. Classroom management techniques supported by research and evidence can affect the behaviors that cause disruptions during lessons, an inclusive classroom, and I wanted to find strategies to minimize the undesired behaviors the students are exhibiting. My I did a baseline data collection to cover the whole class during a whole day to see where I wanted to focus on. This observation was done direct observation while I was teaching the class as the substitute teacher. I used a behavior tracker to track behaviors that I saw throughout the day and meticulously documented how many times the behaviors happened and what happened. Um, I kept also a close, watchful eye on transition from one activity to the next. And during the lessons, I carefully monitored behaviors, including attentiveness, level of engagement, participation in class. And by doing so, I was able to establish a robust baseline of behaviors that provided insights into their learning progress and helped me to identify areas that needed additional support. I chose to do additional support um, during the observations for target behaviors during transition time. I noticed several behaviors during the time of transition, um, including refusal, hitting, bolting out of the room, yelling, um, throwing, swiping, punching, flopping, wandering, not listening, and spitting. In addition, during the instruction times, students exhibited things like refusal, putting their head down, wandering, yelling, singing, and talking out of turn. Based on the observation, I decided to focus on the transition times because my students tend to face more challenging times during those days. I have 2 different populations of groups. I have a small group learning environments. I have a small group intervention classroom. This classroom is a compact space located across the hall from the kindergarten classroom. Um, and it has a smart board. It has all of our supplies and learning tools. Um, the students go to the room and then they return to the classroom. The 2 groups I have on there, the first one are 3 general ed students um, and inclusion classroom student, and my second group in that room are 2L students and a cognitively um, impaired student. In a small group inclusion classroom, this is a small group area within their home inclusion classroom. The teacher in that room has set me up a cubicle space that I use for my literacy and math interventions with the students. We transitioned to that space from snack time in the general education classroom to our intervention lesson space. And then when the intervention is complete, the students do then stay in that classroom as I return to the general education setting. My initial observation, I already gave you a little bit about the group. My first behavior is bolting out of the classroom. I know the students are excited to join my intervention group in the morning, but their impulsivity to bolt out of the classroom and across the hall to our intervention room is a safety concern. I addressed the concern with them, and we discussed how and what appropriate behavior looks like and what's expected of them. For this portion of the transition, I reinforced desired behavior with a good behavior, positive, good behavior game strategy with positive feedback. For the second behavior of not listening, when instructed to line up at the door, a few students are still choosing to continue to do the work at their desk or whatever activity they're doing and not following the directive that's given to them. So, to address this behavior, I built on the good behavior game strategy and added in an incentive in order for them to be more enticed to join in and line up. So that was the order in which they're lined up is the order in which I would do their exit tickets at the end of observation so they can return to the classroom. Behavior 3. This one was a huge problem, and it was fighting over seats. When the students enter the intervention classroom, there is a certain level of competition to claim their preferred seating. And they fight and argue over who's going to sit where, creating an environment of tension and discomfort. I addressed this concern with the students, allowed them to continue to pick their seats. However, I removed all the differential seating options so that all seating was the same. My initial observation in the inclusion program, these are the students who have varying levels of autism. They require unique and structured work environment that is personalized to their learning experience so that I can help them reach their full potential. So, the behaviors I see from these students are refusal. There are students that refuse to transition into the inclusion classroom after snack time in the general education room, even though their peers are packing up their snacks at the exact same time. I implemented the use of a first then picture board with my students using a visual aid. I am able to demonstrate to the student that yes, they get their snack, but then it's followed by work. My behavior 2, throwing objects. 2 of my students would throw their snacks, chairs, or anything near them to avoid going into the classroom, the intervention classroom area. This is a behavior that results from their autism and not something that I feel should be penalized, but to create a reinforcer that would concentrate more on their positive behavior to get the desired outcome and minimize the undesired behavior of throwing. As a first measure, I did decide to do the wait and prompt with a backup of the first then board that I had mentioned in the refusal. Behavior 3, spitting. One of my 3 students spits at the teachers to avoid complying with pretty much any request given to him. It is not exclusive to transitions, but it is a behavior that I've been working on with him since the beginning of the school year. So for these strategies, I added a token board for this time. Um, so if he complies without spitting, he can see by his token board how well he is doing, and I really praise him for meeting the expectations. In my final group, in the initial observation, I have one student, when instructed to line up, that she wanders the classroom like she's unsure of where she is going. So I'm using the parallel modeling strategy with her to help her put her supplies away, line up with positive feedback like, well done, lining up with your classmates, and this paired with the peer modeling can really help her understand and get into the routine. Behavior number 2 is not listening. One of my students is an English language learner as a second, so he's learning English as a second language. For this instance, I ask him to join the group, and oftentimes he'll remain at his desk. Um, and I've noticed similar things during the intervention where he needs to um, have constant reminders to stay on task and even to take out his supplies. So for him, I created a visual schedule that he can move things from to do to all done right as they're done. In the beginning, I did start with prompting so that he understood what was to be done. My middle observation in my morning math group, the bolting out of the room has been improving. However, of course, controlling kindergarten students, impulsivity remains a challenge. So I readdressed this with them. I modeled with them how to line up and not bolt out of the classroom. Um, the good behavior game strategy is working, but I've also added the rewards chart to this where the students, after 10 stickers, can then pick from the prize box. Student behavior number 2, the not listening. Students continue to not pay attention when instructed to line up at the door. 2 of the students still are a little too focused on what they're doing at their desk. So we readdressed this. I removed the good behavior game from this because it wasn't quite working, and added the strategy, uh, uh, added their behavior to the strategy of the token board um, to reinforce the desired behavior. Behavior 3 was the fighting over seats. There's still a level of competition among the students on preferred seating. However, it has decreased, which is a calmer work environment. So I readdressed this concern, and I no longer let them pick their seats. I have assigned their seats and explained to them I will rotate the seats out once a week. My middle intervention for my inclusion program. This is a slow moving one, but they are making progress. Refusal after snack time. The students are still hesitant to come back to the inclusion classroom, but less dramatic behavior. They're adapting very well with the first then picture board. So I'm going to continue using that. I also continue to demonstrate to my students that they will have their snack and then we have work. Throwing objects. The throwing behavior has been minimalized, which is nice. It is still present. However, the measure of weight and prompt with the backup of first on board was really cutting into instructional time. So I decided to remove the weighting and add in a transition warning time that would help make the transition smoother. As for spitting, I'm actually really happy that my strategy of the token board has been working. It is becoming less frequent, um, at least with the times with me, uh, that the token board for positive behaviors has really helped him. I also am adding in the level of ignoring the undesired behaviors. So I'm not putting focus on that. My middle intervention for my ELA group in the afternoon, wonderful. Of course, my role model student is continuing to do a wonderful job. The wandering of the one student, her tendency to wander, there have been some improvements with that. I do continue to use the parallel modeling strategy with her with positive feedback. It is helping her to understand the expectations, but I am able to do it with fewer audible commands and more visual prompts. Not listening. I did notice that the student is not listening due to a language based barrier, but rather hyper focusing on the task that's in front of him when asked to join the group. So, the visual schedule has helped so much in the small group setting that I am adding to that task and including the steps prior to small group time to help him um, move forward with that. My last observation of morning math. The students continue to improve on the transition of bolting out of the classroom. Uh, Fewer instances for the bolting uh, occurs just randomly. Now, the current strategies of good behavior game and the use of the rewards chart has really helped out, especially after the students earned their first prize box choice. Behavior two, the not listening. On most days, only one student fails to pay attention when instructed to line up at the door. However, I have noticed small improvements in the students' behavior. Um, I continue to offer the students the sticker for their desired behaviors on their rewards chart. And I've added transition warnings for the student who is still struggling with not listening. Behavior three, fighting over seats. There are no more arguments about the seatings. Um, they did really like the fact that I told them every week their seats would rotate, and so they would all end up having a turn in their preferred seat. Um, so this has worked really, really well, and the behavior is pretty much non-existent. I consider this strategy a huge success and the only one I think that was a complete success and will work moving forward. My last observation in the inclusion program, the behavior one with a refusal, students are progressing positively. They're showing even less resistance to transition. Having a consistent routine has been very helpful. Um, I I keep utilizing the visual aids as it has been a tremendous help. And I have integrated the token board reward scheme to strengthen pervert behavior times, and they can get that reward from my prize box. Throwing objects. Um, this is now a rare behavior. It is still present, but the first then board and transition warnings have really helped and have been highly effective keeping my students on task, knowing what's coming next. Um, Excellent. Spitting. Um, the student is still spitting. However, it happens less frequently during transition times. Um, I think with the ignoring the behavior and offering the positive reinforcement um, has really helped reducing the frequency of incidents. Um, I will continue to implement these strategies, and hopefully by the end of the school year, he will have mastered um, behavior regulation. My last observation for my ELA group. Wandering. I continue to work with this student over her tendency to wander. However, there have been more improvements with this since last observation. I was able to gradually reduce the parallel modeling strategy with her and now only use it with her when I see she's distracted. I did increase the positive feedback and added the reward token system with her to reinforce her independence. My student that was not listening, I've observed noticeable growth in his self confidence because he is mastering these tasks at hand. And as his self confidence grew, um, it brought about positive changes for him and his listening skills. The visual schedule was a huge improvement. He gained that higher self confidence, and that pretty much is what he's needed. I also have added him to my token board reward system. So, overall, my classroom management strategies for the morning math group, the good behavior strategy and the rewards chart really helped. The prize box was an excellent motivator for the students to help try to strive for positive behavior. To help struggling students, I did add the transition warnings, and that also has been a great help. Um, the assigned seats, amazing. There have been zero behaviors around that. In my inclusion group, I continue to use the visual aid and the token board reward system. They've been doing really good, all of their behaviors. It's slow, continued progress, but I continue to see forward gains with these students. For the afternoon ELA intervention group, wow, what great successes. Um, I've minimized and all but have reduced the parallel modeling unless it's needed. Um, I increased the positive feedback for all of the students. My on task role model student, I did give him the token board as well. He just earns one token a day just so he's included and not left out of the prize box since the other students are earning prize box as well. This reinforcement strategy I have found to work across all of my interventions, and I will definitely use that one moving forward. Um, my quote that I thought of that would wrap everything up perfectly is fostering a constructive learning atmosphere doesn't solely depend on imposing rigid regulations, but rather on establishing significant relationships with students. And I have found that to be tremendously helpful, building those relationships. You've been watching Don Leone's presentation on effective transitional strategies for students in inclusive kindergarten setting. If you require any clarifications or want additional details on the techniques that I use and how I improved um, transitions so they went smoothly, please email me. Thank you for watching. And I am sorry this is so long. I'm trying to do it when I was sick.